Hello friends, how are you today? All right, let's talk about the key chart changes and then we can get into an energy discussion about the meaning of some of these symbols in the chart. But first, I'd like you to please share this video if it resonates with you. A lot of you did that yesterday and it really helped get the word out and show my work to new people. So thank you so much. If you could like the video, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell, that really helps me with the algorithms and with you getting alerted to seeing my next video. Okay, so let's talk about the key chart changes. We talked about everything up to here on the last video. And what I wanted to show you about this image here, it's interesting because it's basically very balanced, like a balanced gateway. We have the big swaths of blue here in the chart. It's very, very lit up, but only to about 15 hertz. So if we look at where the human brainwave hertz are on this chart, which is the whole range, but up to 15 would be up to the alpha level of brainwaves. So it would be from delta, theta to alpha. Now, the interesting thing is a line has appeared again. You remember that there was a line across the chart for weeks and weeks, but this time it's at 24-ish hertz. Okay, it's been at this line right here. It's been this line that's been lit up across the chart. And now that is fainter, much fainter. And we've got a very strong line here at 24. And then we've got these beautiful blue vertical lines that go to straight to 40 hertz. Let's go through the black charts. The frequencies, it's really interesting because look how the frequency of the yellow has really narrowed out. And if you can see, it was actually like that before the big wave here that occurred at this time, about 1600 hours. So it's back to this narrow range. Red, not so much. The green went to a narrow range and is now broken out. The white is just, I don't know, the white and the red are the least affected by the narrowing of the frequency ranges. And then in amplitudes, everything has just come way off. But you have to look at the numbers on the side to actually see what's going on here. Basically, there's minimal activity in green and red, but yellow and white are fairly active at the lower amplitudes, with white being actually the most active, peaking at 13 plus hertz. Now this is really interesting. The quality of the green went up and raised up for I think about 20 hours and was significantly elevated. All right, so let's go back to the main chart here. Let's now talk about the energy that's going on, and I'm going to also do a quick inspired energy discussion. This is the energetic imprint of Thor's hammer from the last video, and the lightning. It's almost like there's a hammer hidden behind here, isn't it? And it's going back and forth. But you see what's happened now is that balance has been created by this action. Isn't that fascinating? I talked about it on the last video at the end, that once Thor's hammer has banged away, once all the detritus of dense energies, sort of the old, the disintegrating, the decomposing, the density that's no longer serving divine will moving forward, once that's all been blown away by the force of the hammer, by the light of the lightning when Thor's hammer strikes, what happens is you get this beautiful outflow that comes next of divine energy, and the divine architecture underneath a living thing is revealed if one can see that. And in the physical, things balance back into alignment with divine will, and that becomes shown in the physical world. It's interesting that after this beautiful balancing here, that we have this incredible space of blue, the balance, the calm, the 0 point. And the awareness here, it's really interesting because there's a line of awareness. Now I'm interpreting the 24 hertz line. There's a line of awareness in our beta hertz level of brain waves. Okay, so this implies that here, what I was saying on the last video, I mentioned, can you be at 0 point? Can you be at 5D, at a fifth dimensional state of energy? Okay, and what I mean by that is a centered state of wholeness in the physical world, while your physical body lives in the third and fourth dimensions, okay? And I say that because I see the non-physical aspect of the human body, and I'll link an article explaining this below, okay? It's called The Fourth Dimension is Not a Tesseracting Geometry. Anyway, it's got such a catchy title. That's a real one for the keyboards, right? Anyway, I'll link it below, and it's a really excellent description of what the fourth dimension, in my view, is really about, and how the human being embodies the fourth dimensional state. But anyway, so can you bring a fifth dimensional state into the body? Yes, you can. And this is the other aspect of ascension that has been overlooked in most discussions, which is the descension of the higher self, the descension of the soul frequencies into the physical form. And when you do that, when your soul connected that way, when you're able to align in your living life with divine will through prayer, through meditation, through energy work, because there's many means, many methods to get there. You can do this in a centered state, praying to God and communing with God in that state. You can do this in a meditative state, where you're doing your meditative practices and achieving centered state of non-thinking, okay? You can do this in energy work, where you're able to have conscious awareness of how the energy in your field flows so that you can achieve a 0 point state. Okay, so here we are. We're in 0 point, and hello, we're consciously aware at the beta level of brainwaves. And what that means is that I can be in 0 point, and okay, it's like I'm thinking, but I'm really knowing. Okay, my brain is still alert, active, I can look around, I can think. I actually can have thoughts and maintain the 0 point stage. If I that's in more depth, and I don't want to get into the details right now because I want to just focus on the point here. So the activity is lit up in our intuitive zone, our subconscious, our unconscious. But look at this. There's another cross, but it's balanced, okay? All the arms are equal, more like a Templar cross. That is in our unconscious, where we have this awakening that we could be at 0 point. We could be in communion with God, the Most High, the creator of the universe. Okay, and then this just starts to light up even more, and we'll see what happens in the next chart. But now I want to have a discussion about inspired energy, and I want to talk specifically about the balanced gateway. And you see here, there are these two very potent lines of energy that go almost like a gateway itself here, okay, from vertically from 0 to 40 hertz, and then you have the gateway after that. Well, to me, this is very indicative of a, what a lot of people refer to as a timeline shift. And I have been noticing the timeline shift manifesting into the physical world in the past 2 to 3 weeks. And that means it's very potent, okay? It's very tangibly felt for many of us. So the topic of what I want to discuss with you is a 0 point solution for your political aggravation, okay? And there were people who commented on my last video that, yeah, should I fight? Should I? And then one woman was saying, should I fight or should I give up? You don't have to do either. It doesn't have to be a choice between fighting or giving up. You don't have to give up your values and principles if you learn how to embody 0 point. Now, the key thing about that is it requires us to make a conscious choice to be in alignment with divine will. And this is where I want to show the scales of justice, okay? It's interesting because justice doesn't just have scales. She has a sword, okay? And that implies in the physical world that there are firm but fair boundaries around this. And I'm not talking about human fairness. Okay, I'm not talking about our perception of, I feel like I was treated unfairly, or I feel like I was treated fairly, or this is what's fair, or this is what we have to do to be fair. I'm not talking about any of that, okay? I'm talking about, and this is why justice is gold, because she embodies the source energy. She is a representation of what is divine will on earth, acted upon in human form. And ultimately, when we do that, when we act in alignment with the divine, the whole is in balance. And what this means is that when one acts as guided through divine will, one is guided to act in ways that essentially do not have the stickiness of karma, because we're not stuck in a duality. We're not stuck in duality anymore. We're not in a polarized point of view. This is a very subtle, okay? There's a very subtle understanding here. So in our current physical world, there's a lot of polarization. It's left, right, good, bad, evil, the light. But the ultimate light, okay, the big light, is of source. And when we're looking at it from the perspective of a higher dimensional perspective, if you could look at it even from the perspective of God or the Creator, all that is the divine element. All that is of the Creator. Now, let me actually use physical world examples to try to illustrate what I'm talking about. And a gentleman, I had an interaction with a man. I was blessed to be invited to give a talk to a small group back when we could do this, okay? So that means it was a year and a half ago. It was, I'm very grateful that I was invited to give a talk, and I gave a talk, and it was all about energy and how energy moves and flows and this kind of thing. And I was talking about duality, okay? And then I was talking about the 0 point. And during the questions, a man starts, he starts just really he's very agitated, and he was very passionate. And someone had brought up something, and he starts saying, yeah, but the stupid, president, and ranting about this horrible president, and he this and he that, and that's why, so-and-so is bad. And he was so filled with passion. This is what I said to him. I said, look, here's the secret, okay? And I'm going to share that with you now, and then I'm going to share how I learned it. What I said was, when you are in duality, okay, and you are taking a firm stand on one side of the political spectrum, okay, and I respect that, but here's the thing. You are empowering the exact opposing side on the other side of the political spectrum through your words, thoughts, and actions. Bam. Lightning strikes. And why is that? Because in duality, one side cannot exist without the other. That's why it's called duality. Okay, same thing. If I am on the ultimate end of the other end of the spectrum, and I'm ranting about this and that injustice that I see on that side of the spectrum, I am empowering that point of view that he expressed. I give it energy. I create it. Okay, this is going to blow the minds of a lot of people, I think. But you have to understand that as human beings, we are, you don't have to understand anything, but I offer that as human beings, we were created at that 0 point at birth. Okay, then we came into life. We came into the training, the matrix, if you will, the experiences of our parents and multi-generation, their parents, and on, the experiences of our society, okay, that we were born into. And then we get molded, right? But if we were to reclaim that state at birth, okay, then we would be in a centered state of wholeness. So here is how I learned this. The trees taught me this. Okay, like I love trees, and I'm going to explain to you what happened that I began to understand this. I was was in an extremely deep blue part of California, and I drove past a extremely gorgeous home with an incredible, almost 180 view of just incredibly gorgeous scene. Okay, city, ocean, just everything is just beautiful. But blocking this 180 view were like 6 very small, but you know, they were going to get bigger, but not in this person who owns the home lifetime. Okay, but 6 gorgeous, incredibly beautiful redwood trees. And they blocked about a 20-foot space, okay? They were arguably planted too close together. But anyway, they blocked about, maybe it was 24 feet. Maybe they were planted 4 feet apart. I don't know. Anyway, they were only about a foot around, so they were pretty young. But they were very tall, okay? And this blocked the 180-degree view. So I was driving by, and there was a lumber company, a tree cutting company had been hired to cut down these trees, and they were in the process, I say this, it pains me, of cutting down the redwood trees. Okay, and I was so upset when I saw this entire scene, and I was just like, you have to cut down these incredibly gorgeous, you know, trees because 170-degree view is not enough. Like, you know, this was my thinking, okay? So what I didn't understand was I was empowering the opposite side, okay? So what do? I call up the town hall, and I talk to the head of planning. Okay, so literally I stop the car, I call, and I start saying, like, look, these are native trees. You can't, you know, why they cannot be allowed to cut these down. Just give me a second here. I'm going to get focused. You know, someone has to, then I started into someone has to speak for the trees and just all this stuff. Okay, total like hippie type approach. Okay. I'm joking here. I don't know if it's a hippie approach, but I was just like Julia Butterfly on the phone. Okay. If you know Julia Butterfly, she years ago chained herself to a redwood tree so it wouldn't be cut down. Okay, so I'm all going Julia Butterfly on this person, okay? And finally, I hang up, and I think like I've done the right thing. And I drive off. I figure I think that they're going to stop the cutting down of these trees, okay? So what happens? I drive back couple days later, and every single tree on the property has been cut down. Not only the trees that I had complained about, but there had been a stand of cypress, okay, back behind the view. That was cut down too. They were all cut down. Anything that wasn't as high as a 10 or 12 foot shrub was cut down. They were all cut down. Any redwood trees that weren't in the view, they were cut down. They were all the trees on the property were cut down. Okay? And I got it. I got it. What I understood was I had empowered the other side. Okay? I had put all of my emotional energy, I had committed my life force to it on my half of duality, seeing the good guys and the bad guys, the right and the wrong. And then because in duality, if I shake it off, okay, if I just shake it off, if I create one side, okay, I'm trying to shake off the density. If I create one side, I create the other side. I empower both sides with my life force that I have committed to this new endeavor. Okay, that I'm calling up and complaining about the trees, okay? Now, here's how the trees taught me the new solution, okay? Here's how the trees helped me to see the new solution. And I love the trees like my brothers, okay? I love them like a brother. And here's the thing, okay? As I learn to embody 0 point within me, okay, as I learn to balance the scales, to balance left and right, to balance right and wrong, I learned how to be in the center. And the thing about Justice, okay, is that she is blind. Why is that? Because her human form is blind, okay? But divine will pours forth through her. She embodies the gold of Source, the gold of the Most High, the creator of the universe, the Most High God, the soul that she is in living form, okay? The human body is the temple of the soul. So she is in co-creation with the divine. Divine will flows through her. She does not make a choice only from her human form, okay? She makes a choice from the connection of God within. She allows that to speak through her. Her human form she uses to communicate that. But it's not only from her human mind or her human emotions. And that is when justice and the light prevails. The light of Source. The light of Source that says, Susan, okay, you gonna call up and rant about cutting down the trees. Guess what? You empowered the energy that desires all trees to be cut down on that property. So here's how the trees showed me this solution. As I learned to embody fifth dimensional energy, which is 0.5D plus, okay, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever, in my human form, I started to see something that I knew about from my visions and dreams, which is that once you get to a 0 point form, a 0 point energy in your human form, you are able to see through the timelines. You are able to see through the realities. You become able to see these things. And the more you trust it, the more you trust your perceptions, the more you trust your ability to embody this, the more you learn to trust that this is real, okay? What happens is you can drive down the street, as I did. I drove down the street, and there was an established, this is in another town, an established massive redwood tree in the center of, almost the center of town, okay? Right by the government buildings, okay? And it had not been there before. It had not been there before. I drove down, and it was a timeline shift, okay? I learned to embody 0 point. I understood that I was starting to see through the realities, okay? Because I could also see the grids. I could see the grids move, okay? I could see the grids expand. And what's that going to do when energy changes in the non-physical? Eventually there's going to be a physical manifestation of that. And there was a new redwood tree, and it looked to be, I don't know, 500 years old, 300 years old. I mean, it has a massive trunk. It wasn't there before. And this is what the trees taught me. Nothing is ever lost. Miracles can happen. The Creator can work miracles through us. We have the gift of being able to see and experience them. The more and more we let go our desire to see the specific X, Y, and Z created. Now, that doesn't mean we don't get to see that created, okay? I'm going to explain how I do it, and then you can make this into how it works for you. But I look to the soul connection within me, and then I quote-unquote give it to God, okay? And I just say, look, this is what I wish, this is what I would like to see created on my planet. This is what I would like to see happen in my country. This is what I would like to experience, okay? But I give it to you, the divine. I give it to you to create what is in alignment with highest good. If that's in alignment, then I accept that in my life. Okay? Whatever's in alignment, whatever unfolds from there, okay? I accept that's what's in alignment with the highest good, no matter how it looks to my human eyes and what my judgment is on that as a human, or my lack of understanding is on that as a human being. Ultimately, I understand that divine will is transpiring, is rolling out, the highest good is rolling out, and at some point my human self will understand that. So now let me share the end of the story. And I also want to share how you can empower yourselves, because being at 0 point doesn't mean that you can't take action in the human world, in the physical world. It doesn't mean I'm like have to go sit in a cave or a yurt and meditate for the rest of my life and do nothing. No, that doesn't mean that. Let me explain, okay? First, I'm going to go back to the trees. Now, when I see a stand of trees, if I have a concern for those trees, the first thing that I do is send love to myself. Because the fact that I could be concerned about the trees means that I don't trust that the trees have their own path and that they are in charge of that. Okay? They are in charge of that. And it doesn't mean that I can't, like, let's go back to driving past that house. When I saw what was happening at the house where the trees were being cut, here is an alternative way I could have handled that from 0 point. First, I don't think I would have gotten as riled up emotionally now that I am where I am now. Okay? Actually, I'm not going to go back. I'm going to say now, if I was me now, having done a lot of work on myself since seeing the stand of trees being cut down, okay? I would drive up, I would check in. Is it in my highest good and in the highest good of the trees for me to call and complain and try to convince the planning commissioner to not cut down the tree, to take away permission to cut down the trees, okay? I would call and I would call source within. I would connect with my soul. I would pray, and I would say, "Is it in the highest good?" If I get yes, then I could call. Now, then I would check in. Is it in the highest good for me to rant at a person about this? Yes or no? Okay. Is it in highest good for me to approach the topic this way or that way? And I would check in on all these things, what is in alignment with divine will through me? But I might also check in and say, is it in alignment for me to call and complain and talk to the planning commissioner about the cutting down of these specific trees? And I might get no, contrary to my human, conclusion in my own mind that that's the obvious right thing to do. If I get no, I don't call now. What it is now is that I check in. What is in alignment with divine will? Is it in divine will for me to help someone with this? Is it in divine will for me to ask my neighbor for help or offer them help? I don't assume anymore. I don't think about things from a human perspective and say, of course, it's obvious I should do this. Now I check in. I check in because what I have found is that sometimes something that I think is obvious is the easy answer, and the hard answer that would keep me in alignment with the truth of myself, of what I'm really about, is doing something harder that takes more inner work. Sometimes it's that. Sometimes it's just that my energy contributing isn't going to help the situation. Or what I would say, how I would approach it, isn't going to help. I mean, I could sit here and come up with a lot of mental reasons about this. But ultimately, my choice is to give it to God. Ultimately, my choice is to walk the divine pathway as a living human being in my life and for my life, and in my interactions with others and for my interactions with others, whether it's a friend, family, my interaction with myself. You know, sometimes I'm guided to do things that freak me out, and, you know, like my video I made yesterday on Thor and being a spiritual warrior. And I told a lot of stories, and the way I talked in that, it was very much the truth of who I am. It was very much speaking from my authenticity. I woke up yesterday morning, you might notice I didn't put out a Twitter post, I didn't make a video. I was like, I woke up like shaking and dizzy. And I have compassion for myself, because I was just like, oh my God, did I really do that? Did I really like put that video out there and share like that? Share so openly. And I can't tell you how many times I put out a video and then I check in and with my, you know, with my soul connection, and I say, should I delete that video? Because part of me wants to delete that video because I feel too vulnerable. And part of me wants to delete that video because the human part of me wants to not share who I really am, because I might get criticized, or someone might think this, that, or the other thing, or whatever. I don't care, because divine will through me says, put it out. Divine will through me. And it's not harsh or heavy like that. It's a flow of love that says, be who you are.